And good morning and good afternoon, everybody. How is everyone?
Good.
All right, great.
Good.
Well, you have the music for today. But today I want to give it a little bit of not just about the song, but just some tips along the way, things that I normally say a lot. Okay? And I remember years ago, back when I started in the business, back in the early 90s, there was a Lowry artist oh my goodness, it's my birthday today also, it says Octavia. So we'll have to do it again at the end and sing happy birthday to Octavia. But Octavia, how old are you now? 36, someone told me? I can't hear her, but I'm reading her lips. She's saying, yes, I'm getting younger every day. All right. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah, 30 years. Yeah. So in
Song.
the early 90s, a Lowry artist by the name of Paul Schaub. Some of you know Paul Schaub. Actually, he lives here in Tucson, in North Tucson. And he would tell a lot of the students when he taught workshops, we learn by repetition. And a lot of people think that, boy, you must have a hard time. You have to repeat yourself over. And I said, I'd rather repeat myself over and over as many times as I like, because the more I have to do it, then I always have something to teach. So if I don't have to repeat myself, I probably won't have any students to teach. And that wouldn't be good. I'd be teaching myself, right? So I'm going to, in making arrangements, there's many different ways of making arrangements to the song. The first thing I need you to know is the minute you make changes to the organ, whether you're changing a sound, you're increasing the tempo, turning down your bass, adjusting the drum volume. Some of you have buttons like Basic and Genie or Orchestra Plus. Anytime you do any of those button pushings while you're playing, you're basically becoming an arranger. And there's no wrong or right or bad or good arranger. Actually, I could take it back. The worst arranger is the one that doesn't do anything at all. I guess if you just put on one setting and that's all you use, well, technically that's an arrangement, right? So there is no such thing as a bad arrangement or good arrangement. It's only what you like. I've had arrangements that I've created that I love absolutely, and then I find out someone doesn't like it because they don't really care for those musical instruments. Everybody has a preference. I'm not a big fan of the accordion when I play. If you notice, I very rarely use the accordion. But it comes in place. There's a time and place I will use it, and I love it for certain songs. Under Paris Skies, for example, the song, whenever I play that song, I like to use the accordion, and it works perfectly for that. So it just depends on the style of music. But there's a few things when it comes to making arrangements, and I'm going to put this up on the screen there. Let's see if you can see it. Some basic things that I always say to look at, and that is, can you all see that out there in Zoom land?
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if you could see it here, but there's things that I want you to look for in your instrument. If you have an Easy or an SD series model, there's a misperception that you can't make fancy arrangements with smaller models. Well, that's not necessarily true. You may not have as many options, but you do have options. You can make look at your style or your accompaniment. There's a button called Genie. So in the SU and the A series, if you have an SU or an A series, look for the button that says Genie. If it's an EY or EX series, there's a button called Basic. Now, don't confuse the word basic with the basic rhythm. Very, very common mistake. So a lot of the organs have a rhythm style, a variation called basic. Okay? In other words, any rhythm that you select under that category is going to be a rhythm style that's very basic in nature, easy to follow. But where your rhythm style is, wherever your rhythm styles are, which is always towards the left, there's a button that has Genie or Basic, and then next to it there's a button that's called Orchestra Plus. What's the difference? Well, Orchestra Plus, Genie is basically one instrument. Genie or Basic, should I say, is typically one musician. And it's commonly a guitar or piano type sound. Okay? Orchestra Plus is all the other band members that make up that style. So if you put on a big band style, you typically hear a lot of things like saxophones and brass and all sorts of trombones, etc. And I'll get back to that in a second. Bass, you all have an automatic bass on there. Some of you have the option of choosing one of the automatic basses. And your drums. Everybody has a drum volume. Sometimes I will purposely play a song without the drummer and then bring the drummer in. And then some of you have a drum variation. It just means that the drummer plays a little bit differently. If you ever, drummers get they don't get as much attention. And if you notice, if you ever see them live on stage, they're always in the back. But boy, they probably work the hardest. If you think about the physical energy it takes and everything they're doing, it does things without you even realize how important their part is in a song. Sometimes they could play a certain way and all they do is they switch to a splash cymbal. And that's enough to make that song sound totally different, the way they play. And then some of you have the alto style. And of course, lower and left hand. So I'm going to be talking about some of these things today as we go. So for the song Ave Maria, here's what I did. See if my notes don't have to change by the time I'm done. I always come up with notes and then I realize I make changes as I go. So the first thing I did for this first beginning of the song, I wanted to start it off very simply. Now, the arrangement approach that I'm taking today, and I've done this for a few songs, is when you think about a song that you really enjoy, a lot of times they start off full, like there's a lot happening, like the chorus of the song starts, and then it kind of backs down to a much softer arrangement, simple arrangement, and then you have the verse and they're singing the verse, and then they come back and do the chorus and then they sing the verse, and then sometimes there's what's known as the bridge, or I just call it the middle part for layman's terms, and that it's not really what you're hearing in the song, but it's part of the song that's a little bit different, and sometimes that sounds a little bit different, and that could be full or soft. And the most important thing is what I like to use the word dynamics. In other words, you could start off medium, full, soft, full, and it doesn't matter how you do it, just doing it changes the dynamics of the song. Now, how do you do that? Well, everything that I just told you, by using the Orchestra Plus, your genies, your drum variations, and just using those buttons on your instrument. In a song like I'm going to feature today, I actually start off very soft, and then I gradually grow and grow and grow until I finish with a full sound, just the way the song is written. So in the beginning, it's going to sound something like this. Okay, so you notice I have just a nice, simple solo sound, all right? And I have not much going on. Did you hear any drummers in that? Did you hear any drummer in there? No, there wasn't any drummer. No drummer. No, not even a bass in there. There's a musician in there. Okay, now, this is the first setup, but this is how this setup normally comes on. If you just turned it on and you put on rhythm preset, this is what you normally get. Which is nice. Okay, the style I'm using is soft gospel. For this song, any really soft ballad style, I would stay away. Well, maybe before I say that, I was going to say stay away from ballad triplets, but no, that'll work too. Any soft and easy 4/4, soft guitars, any style that typically comes up at a nice slow tempo of 66 is the tempo I'm using. So I'm using a soft gospel, all right? But what I did is I stripped it down. I took that rhythm and I took away all the stuff, all right? So hopefully I typed this out right. I'm going to leave that up on the screen, and I'm going to print out a page for you. And I'm going to post this on Patreon as well. That I gave you?
Yeah, I was going to tell you about.
Oh, is it not coming up?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, it's goofed up on my screen sharing. Give me a minute, folks. Go ahead and print. See if you can get it front and back. Maybe you have to print one at a time.
Yeah.
Looks like my screen sharing is goofing up. Give me a second. Let me see here. All right, let's try that again. Okay, how about this? Can y'all see that on there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which one did I screen share? Sometimes I never know. Let me see here. So can you see the words Ave Maria and one simple solo out there, folks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So you see, I said for the first setup, which if you printed the music, I put one on the sheet already. Pick a nice simple solo instrument. I thought something like an oboe or a flute would be pleasant. Okay. And then I said, make sure no other sound is on when selecting the sound. And then I even put it here for the easy series, for the style or accompaniment only, for your easier SD series. And if you have the touchscreen models or what have you, you have Genie or Basic only. But I also put on here how to do it. I did a step-by-step on how to do it. Okay, now let me. So how you do it is simple. You power on the organ. Okay? And if you follow this step by step, you can get pretty darn close. Power on the organ, turn off your rhythm preset or style setup or auto setup, depending on what organ you have. They're called something else. So the A series has rhythm preset, style setup, and the SD is called auto setup. So turn that off.
Well,
hold on. My computer wants to play music. Apparently, my music just started. It thinks I'm wanting to play music. Did I sound like I said series name? Okay, okay, sorry about that, folks. Okay. It said now playing whatever it was. Thinks I'm saying things. All right. So you turn on the organ, you turn off whatever one of those buttons that pertains to your instrument. The style choices I gave is soft gospel or easy 4/4 or easy 8-beat. They're all great styles, okay? Put on a tempo of 66. If you want to play it faster, fine. All right. And then you take your drum volume, because normally the drummer is on and your auto bass is on already. You want to turn that drummer off, and then it says put your bass volume at off, or just turn off your auto bass. And this is extremely important. I don't think I put it in there, okay? But make sure you have no sound in your left hand. Oh, I did put it there. Make sure no other sound is on when selecting a sound. Okay? Lower left hand sound off. All right? So what's going to happen, and I'll pull that up in a second, is ultimately you're going to end up with this. Now I know it sounds very soft out there, which is intentional. All right? And what happens is in that background, if you have the Orchestra Plus off, it's just the Genie. And what did I tell you earlier that the Genie or Basic has? One instrument, and what is it commonly? Guitar or piano. Well, it's not a guitar and it's not a regular piano, it's an electric piano. Now, electric piano tends to fool the ears. It's a different type of sound. Let me just take a peek here. It says Piano Electric Classic. So that's what you hear going on in there. And it says electric piano. And so all I have is an oboe in this case. And what happens is you got... So all you get when you're doing that is the electric piano player playing and the oboe playing. Right. O-B-O-E. And it's not a sound that I use a lot for certain songs only.
It's really a soft instrument.
And it can be harsh too, depending on where you play it. If you play it too high, it gets a little too shrill for the ears. And it typically is. In fact, I believe, let me see here. Let me take a look at my oboe. And I brought it down 1 octave. Okay? And here's why. Now, you don't have to, but the reason why I did it is for the reason that I just told you. Now, I did 2 things, by the way. I transposed the organ down 4 half steps, I think. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 half steps, and it says A in the window. All right? So I brought it down, and then I made the oboe an octave lower. Believe it or not, a lot of the... What's that? Someone have a question? So the oboe I brought down an octave down. Believe it or not, a lot of the instruments, even the Easy 2, the small Easy series, has an octave feature in there. You go into the feature and you scroll, and you can put on any sound that you like and shift it down or up an octave. Why did I do that? Because I don't want this oboe to sound like this when I'm playing. I like it, you can see it there, I'm playing in this range. Stop, Robert. What'd you do next, you ask? I can tell. I see the looks on your faces. Well, what else did you do? All right, did you get those sheets?
Not yet. That, electric guitar sounds a lot
Electric piano.
piano.
It does sound like a harp sound,
Harp sound,
but it's really an electric piano.
like an angel sound.
It is. Okay. Let's see, where are my notes here? Okay, so I started off on the first setup with just an oboe and all the instruction that I put on there. Okay? On the second setup, I only did a couple things. I added strings to the solo sound, and then in parentheses you'll see there crescendo strings if you have it, or just a nice pre-strings. You'll also notice I put add orchestra plus. Okay?
That's at the middle of.
That's on the second setup of the song. Now all the presets are all labeled. And there's more handouts coming for you. You can take notes or you can read. Flip the page over, I think, Marilyn.
You really have a lot of setup.
I really do have a lot of setups. I don't want to shortchange this song.
Yeah, it's a
So what happens is when I go to the here's what I did. So I added the strings, but what I want you to do is watch when I play the first setup. Watch what happens because I preset the presets in advance. Watch what happens when you go to the next setup. Did you notice while I was holding the note, I went to the next preset. So when I did it, it automatically transitioned to those strings very nicely. Okay? But listen again. So it just goes real smoothly. And how you do that is if you have presets, program the presets in advance so that way when you're playing the song, you can go one from the other. Now, the third setup, you'll notice that I'm using all the things I mentioned earlier, the basic, the genie, the auto bass, and all that. So I took all those things off, and then what I did is I'm kind of adding them as I go. Let me go back to, let's see if this is the right one. Okay, so what does it say in number 3? Turn on the bass. Now what I did is I have an auto bass, and I just turned it off. Now some of you don't have an auto bass button. So if you don't, here's what I would recommend. Just turn down the volume of the bass itself. And when you get to the third setup, turn up the bass volume. For me, I just turned off auto bass and turned it on. And then I saved it in a preset. And then you'll see there, if available, add golden harp. Okay? Now, so here's the second setup. I'm going to take it from the second setup. Now when I get to the third setup, now watch. I tend to hold the notes when I'm switching presets, but that's only going to work if you have your presets programmed in advance. Okay? And that's why I gave you the handout. You can do it via USB. Save it however you like. Okay?
Change the Ave Maria that you had in the USB differently.
Yes. is very, but it's pretty similar.
Because you have given
Yes and no.
so
All right, so let me go back up to here. So you'll notice I'm only doing one addition at a time. And just by doing that, you're creating an arrangement. So what does number 4 say on the sheet?
drums.
Turn on drums. I put volume 7. Some people, when they play, they have to turn up their bass and the drummer louder so they can hear the beat. And that's not uncommon. So I'm just suggesting it. So when I'm doing number 3, let me go before I go to number 4, somewhere in the bottom. Oops. All right.
You are playing farther down, not the notes as it says, which would be.
I'm playing farther down up here.
Yeah.
Yes, because the question well, it was a question and a statement at the same time. The question and the statement at the same time was, I'm playing basically further up on the keyboard. Yes, and here's why I was able to do that. Remember what I said about the oboe? I turned it down an octave low. Okay? And here's the thing. If you're setting this up at home, let your ears be your guide. Okay? So if you have an oboe or a flute sound on, and you're playing up here and it sounds too high, and you need to play it an octave lower, do that. The reason why I'm playing up here is because I took the oboe and I used the octave down. So it brought it down an octave. So it's like I'm playing down here, but I'm really playing here. And that's why I'm able to pull that off. If I don't, and I play here, it's going to be very shrill from my ears. Because the oboes are very kind of a high sound. I transposed it down 3 half steps, and I used an oboe, and I brought down an octave so I can play it in a range that's pleasing to the ears. Or should I say my ears? You'd be surprised. You'll know people out there that play if they lose the highs in their hearing. Because they could put on these real high trumpet sounds and oboes, and it's coming across, and it's not even phasing them. And I've met people. I actually had a student right here in Tucson once thought his organ was broke. Something was wrong with it. And I went out to his house to go listen, and I asked him, tell me what you do when you set up the organ. He set it up, and I instantly knew what the issue was. You know what it was? He played his march, it was his hearing, but I knew immediately what was going on. He was going right to the marches. A lot of the march styles that come on put a piccolo down here. A piccolo. Piccolo is like an octave higher than a flute. And I was playing, and he couldn't hear it. And I said, you can't hear that? And he thought the top octave was broken. Because when I was playing, he can kind of hear it, and the further higher I went, he couldn't hear it. And I explained to him, I said, I don't know how to say this, but you might want to get with your, an audiologist, because I'm hearing, and it's a very high range. He didn't believe me. He called, Mary. Mary come out, and he says, play that again. And I started playing, and she immediately had this face like, please stop, because I was playing really high, and she could hear it easily. Anyway, so, yeah. Sometimes the solution to using instruments, there's 2 ways to use instruments that typically come up higher in range. Okay? Trumpets, flutes, piccolos, oboes. There's a lot of, even clarinets if you're not careful. And that is 2 ways. The easiest, fastest way is transpose the instrument down. Or, because sometimes you start playing up here, and then you realize that's high. So you bring it down here, you go, oh, that's too low. Well, if you transpose the organ down several half steps, it'll allow you to probably play it in this range, and vice versa. Sometimes you have a sound that's too low and you have to play in this range. Transpose it up. And you got 12 half steps you can work with, and then you'll know what's going to work for your ears. And with easy playing, we say this all the time, because everything's in the key of C or F commonly. The songs that were written with the sounds, they're not always going to work perfectly in the range for you. And that's why using that transposer feature will really be beneficial in those cases. There is no set rule. It's you play your song. If it's too high up here or too low, by moving your hand one octave, then ask yourself, where do you want to play it? If you want to play it up here and it's too high, transpose it down. If you want to play it here and it's too low, transpose it up. And just pick a certain steps and then see if how your ears like it. Okay? Now, so as you notice, I'm gradually going from, here's the first setup that I made. Here's the second. Here's the third. Here's the fourth. I brought the drummer in there. Okay, kept it nice and simple. All right. And let me bring this up. And I'll tell you what's really cool about this. If you got your hand out there, you can use this model for a lot of ballads, actually. Like Pick Over the Rainbow. This same setup. Watch, I'll play it with Over the Rainbow. Or Unchained Melody, Hallelujah. Any song, you can use it. All right? So number 5, you'll see on the 5th setup, I added vocal in the right hand, or upper. I added a harmony. The one that I'm using is called hymn, H-Y-M-N, or choose a harmony that works for you. The hymn harmony, by the way, is an interesting harmony because it plays, if I'm not mistaken, I think it plays like a 3-note chord with one finger, and then it adds 1 note down in the octave. So you're going to want to definitely play on the upper range. And then I put in there, if available, drum variation. Okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to go from number 4 like this. Okay? So you can see where the vocals comes in and that harmony comes in. Just kind of fills it in a little bit more. Now before I go on, are there any questions? I see a lot of people writing and taking pictures of the thing. I'll post this on Patreon. Oh, you mean where did I get the vocals? Okay. No, I just went in and I looked up I went into my sounds or my Genius buttons, and I scrolled through and I found actually the vocal sound that I use is called Extra Choir Itopia. Okay? Now if you don't have Extra Choir Itopia, I have a few of those sounds available for sale, and they come with a free organ. They're about $50,000. That choir's not cheap. Just kidding. So a choir, some of you actually have a choir. Actually, everybody has, well, I want to say everybody, almost everybody has a choir. Even in the Easy series here, they don't have Choirtopia, but they have a sound called choir. Okay? So look for the choir. If you don't have, look for something that says vocals. Okay? Vocal ensemble. Some of you have right on the tab here, there's just a vocal ensemble tab right there. But if you go through your sounds, you'll find that most of the instruments these days actually have a choir sound in there.
When in the song, other than this one, the song, sometimes it says choir.
I'm going to say yes and no. It depends on what you want. If you see it's something that has choir, yeah. Wherever you like. There's no right or wrong answer to
I
that.
thought that would be touching 7.
Well, yes. So she said, thought it would touch a 7. Yes. A lot of you have the 10 presets here, the factory presets that come, like you just turn it on and don't do anything, press 7. Yes, if you press 7, it gives you another choir setting. But the reason why I didn't do that is because there's a lot going on preset 7. If you just push preset 7 from the factory, you get choir choir Itopia, choir far, and then there's a vocal over here. You're getting 3 or 4. That's a really full organ. The reason why I didn't do that with this setup is because I wanted to take the sound that I currently had and I just added one choir sound to it with a harmony, and then you get so it's not an overbearing choir. Maybe it's just less people in that choir. Well, if I'm just using the one choir sound, there's probably about 3 or 4 voices in there with a harmony, so you're getting about 10 people. Roughly 10 people versus 30 or 40. All right? So, as you can see, my intent here was to slowly but surely build. And then on 6 and 7, I added 16 and 8-foot flutes. And then on the 7, I added the 8, 4, 2, and the 1-foot flutes. Yes. Now, these aren't flutes.
They're pipes.
Not those kind of flutes. Yeah, think of the pipes. All right? Many of you have seen pictures or been to the Oregon Stop Pizza or places that have the pipes. Okay? The real 16-foot pipe is the low sound. They basically, a combination, these tabs here, your organ sounds, we call them, the flute tabs, is how you create organ sounds. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people, they go, well, I'm not really into organ sounds except for when I occasionally need it. But what's great about the organ sounds is they're great to use in combination with other sounds. So when you hear this, you may hear a little bit of it, but it may not be strong. Let's see. You see? It just fills it in. It's a nice, good blending sound. Okay, but I did a little bit more to this preset that you don't see on that sheet, I realize. I just realized there was more on that sheet. So you can take pictures, but you're going to want to write this down. Okay?
How do you add so many of the different instruments for the programming of the organ arrangement?
How do you say the question again?
How do you add so many of the same instrument? You're saying different flutes there?
Right, because you have all of the flute tabs.
Oh, that's where you do?
That's where they're at, if you have the flute tabs. Now, if you don't have the flute tabs, let me just clarify. Lowry always has preset organ sounds. Sometimes they're called mellow, full, sweet, okay? I probably would stay, well, we'll get to the full. If you have a full organ sound, that would be in my last setup. You would add that with strings. Or the sweet or mellow would be close to what I'm saying on number 6, 16 and 8. If you heard just a 16 and an 8-foot flute together, folks, let me take that off here so you could see. So if you have 16 and an 8-foot organ flute by itself, this is what it sounds like. It's an organ, but it's kind of more of a mellow sound. Here's a 16, 8, and 4. It's a little brighter because the 4 is a high. Each number represents an octave apart. Watch. Here's a C note with a 16 foot only. All right. Here's the 8 by itself, 8-foot flute. Here's the 4. Here's 2. Here's 1. Okay. They're all an octave apart. All right. Now you would never use, I would probably say 99.999% sure, is you would never use a combination of those starting with the 4. And it's rare that you would start it with the 8, although it's more common if you're blending with sounds. But it's very common that you do the 16 and other combinations. Now watch. Here's a 16 by itself. Here's a 16 with an 8. Here's a 16 with a 4 only. Here's a 16 with a 2 only. 16 and 2. 16, 8, 4, and 2. They're all kind of relatively okay sounding to the ears. That's how you get all of these organ combinations. The minute you take away the 16, you lose your low end. Now it can be used, but you got to do it carefully because now you're playing in a higher range of sound, okay? So what I did to that setup, as I said, is I put a 16 and the 8-foot, but I also forgot to tell you, and I knew there was a change I needed to add to this, and I'm going to type it here. You might want to write it. To number 6, if you have this 16-foot strings and 4-foot strings. So you go from this to this. I almost lost my spot in the song. That ever happened to you? No, doesn't happen. You ever lose your place in the song? Okay. And then on 6, I also, if you have it, I switch from a hymn harmony to a 3-part harmony. So if you want to write that down on your paper, 3-part harmony.
On the 6th?
Yes. And I'll update this as well and put it on our Patreon.
What else?
That's on the 6th setup. I switched to a 3-part harmony, and I have 16-foot strings and 4-foot strings. Okay.
You still add the choir.
Oh yeah, I have that in there. Oh yes.
And the flutes, so you're just adding all.
I'm adding stuff. I just keep adding stuff to build it up. Big sound. Add, 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 add. So again, remember in the beginning I said the arrangement approach I'm taking is starting out soft and just gradually building and adding until I end with something big. Okay? Now, there's one thing, let me play it first before I say. So I'm going to take it from right before I go to number 6. Here we go. Okay, so what I do there when I play the song, I don't think I have. I'm going to have to find a way to do it. So when you play this part right, if you're looking at the music, all right, so see where number 6 is?
Yeah.
Right here, I'm playing those notes, and what I do is I add kind of some extra measure or two in there, and I hold the fill in while I'm doing it. Okay, FX or fill, however it's after the C note, actually technically right around the rest. And then what I do, let's see if I can, let me see if I can use the annotation here to, oops, wrong thing, sorry, disregard. I used the wrong thing. Hold on. Stop the presses. Bring that back up. Okay, let's see if I can do this in real time here. Okay, I'm going to draw. Okay, ready? Here we go. Okay, they may not look good. All right. Let me turn that color to a red color and make it a little thicker. Okay. All right. So what I do is when I get to the right before 6 and I play those notes, I hold the fill-in down long enough for me, and then I run my hand up the keyboard and I get to this D note right here. The trick is to play that D note on the first beat. Okay? So, let me try to show that. Glissando, is that what that's called? Any musical geniuses out there? Is that what it's called? Glissando? I call it the run your finger up the keyboard. If we had some
Yes,
of
it's
the
a glissando.
Glissando,
That would be
the
glissando,
educators, they go, Robert, you're supposed to say it right. But you all get, you just run your finger up. Okay. But thank you, whoever said that. Glissando, yeah. But see, let me go to number 5. Let me play the measure, the 3 measures, that line beforehand, okay? Let me see if I could do this sideways. Here we go. Okay, now that's a little tricky standing up because I had to, now, it's called a glissando according to the popular vote here. Oh, now that was a good question. Hold that thought. But what I want to say is when I do it, I prefer using my foot switch. Now, if you're comfortable using your touch bar, reaching and doing something, because I like my left hand to stay where it's at, and then I use my foot switch, and then I just run my finger. I don't have to worry about another hand moving off the keyboard. She just asked the same question. Where do I start?
Yeah.
The answer is wherever you like. Just start going.
Doesn't matter.
I think I change it every time. Here we go. Yeah, that time I started way down here. But here's the thing. Don't play a note. Don't pick a note and then run your finger up. Just start running your finger up. So no matter where you end is on the note that starts on the first note of the 4th line. Okay?
No, there's 2 notes there together.
Yeah, don't disregard the bottom note. But yes. I don't know if you could see that there.
Hey, Robert.
Hold on 1 second. See where I put this line there? I just draw a little line and I run my finger up to the end in that note. You got that? Okay. Did you get that? That's kind of what I did. Yeah, I would do it here. I would make a notation there. I mean, same thing, but you. Okay. You have a question out there?
Disregard the B.
Who had a question on Zoomland?
Yeah, Robert. On the note A, the beginning A, what's that F on below it?
Okay, so this music that I got, however I got it, you'll notice that there's some notes below it. That's if you're playing this with your own harmonies and what have you, and your own notes. I would just disregard those notes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's if you're, you've noticed several of the presets I've used harmony. Okay, and in the beginning I used an oboe or flute. I wouldn't use those sounds with playing those notes. So now, if you're using something simple like just strings, go for it. Or piano or sounds like that, go for it. But if you're using the setups, the sound, this is recommendation I'm giving you today, I would disregard those lower notes. I just included it on this music because I thought some people may just want to play the song and put on a piano. And if you can play those other notes, great. They're great harmony notes for the song. If you're using like the oboe and the flute like I suggested, or if you're using these harmonies, just disregard those notes that you see. So here you see an F there, you'll see it here, B, you'll see an F. I think in the beginning too. Yeah, you'll see it says F there. Those are just harmony notes that wherever I got this from, put them on there.
Mm-hmm.
My preference is don't do it with these setups. All right, so I'm going to go back to this. So what happens is when I play G, E, C, I hold down the fill. Because it's a slow style, you only need to hold it for one measure, 4 beats. And you want to start somewhere, I would say, on the second or third beat and run your finger up till you get to the D note. But the trick is when you get to this note, you want to be on the downbeat, the 1. You might have to rehearse it a few times. Okay? So it's going to look something like this again. Where did my music go? You want me to put the keyboard up there? Okay. I don't know if you could see it out there, but so. Oh, the pressure's on. I got to do it right this time. You notice I did that a little differently than last time, right?
Robert, did you, on the second page, 1, 2, 3, the third line, last measure, when you press the fill in, did you do it over the rest at that time? Did you push it where the rest is?
Yes, I did. And essentially what's happening, essentially what I'm doing is right here, I'm adding an extra measure.
Oh.
With a whole rest, if you will, and I'm doing just the fill in. Or you could say there's a whole measure right. This right here is like one measure.
Okay.
And you're holding, okay? And
Yep.
the answer to your question is I'm not playing the lower notes because I'm using harmonies. It'll contribute. Well, if you're using the harmonies, you don't want to play those lower notes. Now the trick here is, you'll notice the last time I just did it, I did it a little differently than the time before that. The time before that, I think I started that run up the glissando a little too late, but it was okay. As long as I end up on the D note, on the downbeat. You can do that however you want. Watch. Here we go. One more time. That time I started early and I just kind of ran up and then I realized I better get there fast. And that's okay. They all work. You can do it however you want, just as long as you end up on that D note and the G chord at the same time. And then when you're playing it, okay? And then the last setup that I told you, and I added all the extra sounds in there, and then all you have to do is hold the note. If you want, you see how you have amen or amen, F and F? Sometimes I just hold the F note the entire time. Because I have a harmony on, it'll trick the ear into sounding like you're doing it. Watch. Okay?
If you did that, Robert, wouldn't you take the B flat out?
Nope, no. You
Oh.
definitely want the B flat.
Right.
You want to leave the B flat in there because if you got a harmony on and you're playing an F chord and the note that I'm playing is an F, it's going to choose the right notes that blend with the F chord, right?
Right.
And then if while you're holding the F and you hit the B flat, guess what's going to happen to those notes? They're going to change automatically because you have the harmony on.
Right. Right.
And then you go back to F. So listen again closely. So here's the F chord and the F note. So the notes change automatically in the melody sound.
Right.
So a lot of times I just hold the note. I don't lift up and hit it again. I just like holding it, and then just by changing the chord, it almost sounds like it's almost the same thing, only it's smoother when it happens. You can do an FX at the end. In fact, I might probably do that when I actually play it. Just a little harder doing it from the side. Okay?
What's the chord with an arrow to the left or to the right? First G is one.
Okay.
That's when they hit it?
No, that's an old thing that you don't see in books anymore. Okay, so in case you're wondering, and I'll say it one time through, but it usually takes some people a few times. So, and then I'm going to play the song all the way through once, okay? So the question came up. You see where it says GM and then there's an arrow in the middle?
Yep.
And there's a B flat? Y'all see that? There is some music, and actually, if you have a book called the Jumbo Songbook, the older version, it'll have this. I think the newer version doesn't. But Hal Leonard used to put in some of their books these little arrows. And you know what it was doing?
Moving it over.
No. What it was doing, it was teaching you how to play the 3-note chord. Oh, how did it teach you how to play the 3-note chord? Well, let me show you how. Okay, now try to follow me on this. This is a bonus tip for today, folks, if you have music that you ever have these arrows, okay? So how it works is this. Let's start with the G minor. I'm going to zoom in on there so you guys can see that. You have it in front of you. All right, see, it says G minor. Here's how, like, I'm brand new at this, and I want to learn how to do a G minor chord, gosh darn it. And you can't just pick up the phone and call somebody because you call somebody because you want to know now. Obviously, you can Google it nowadays, right? But if you're in the moment, what you do is you take your 3 notes and you play the white keys first. All right? So a G, every other white key starting on G would be G, B, D, correct? All right, so you take the letter that it gives you. Forget the minor for a second. Forget the flat and all that stuff when I'm showing you. So right now it says G minor. So you start with the G note. And then you play every other white note. Okay? So in that example, what I'm telling you right now is GBD. But GBD doesn't make a G minor chord. Okay, well that's the next step. So now it's telling me that the arrow, if you notice, is in the middle. The arrow is in towards the middle of that. It may either be in the bottom, middle, or top. And the middle one is in, the arrow's in the middle. So what it's telling you is you take that middle note and you go to the left 1/2 step. So if I have GBD,
Now you've got G80.
if I have GBD, I take the middle note, B, in this example, and you move it down 1/2 step, it becomes a B flat. And now it is a G minor chord.
Oh, that's just telling you.
Okay? Now sometimes that it kind of get deer in the headlights. So here's the B flat. I don't know how to do a B flat chord, and I want to do the 3-finger B flat chord, and I want to find the notes. What's the first letter in the B flat? Okay, I hear it here. How about in Zoomland? What's the first letter in B flat you see there? B, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so same thing. Every other white note starting with B is what? B, D, and F. Now, if you actually play that as a chord, I think you get a diminished chord, okay? But we're not done yet. Where's the arrow pointing?
Bottom,
It's on the bottom, but which direction?
left.
To the left. So I take the bottom note of those 3, B, what did you say? B, all right, let me put on the easy button. B, D, and F. Okay. And I move the bottom note to the left to B flat, and I play those 3 notes. Now I have B flat, D, and F. So there you go. There's your bonus tip for today. No extra charge. If you want to learn the 3-finger chord and you see those arrows, if you want to try to figure it out, it's sometimes the arrows point to the right. The thing to remember, if you go back and watch this, the thing to remember is this. Whatever chord it's telling you, okay, and it has an arrow pointing to the left or right, you start with the letter first on the white keys, and then you go every other white key, and then you find the arrow that it's pointing. If the middle one's pointing to the right, you would take the middle note and move it 1/2 step to the right. If it's pointing to the left, you would take the middle one to the left. If the lower arrow is pointing to the left, you take the bottom, and that's how they do that. Now, I think over the years, Hal Leonard stopped putting that in books because even though they had instructions on that in the beginning of the book, we were always asked that question. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So this is an old version that apparently I have. Anyway, I'm going to play it one time through using the setups today. This is what it sounds like if you set it up exactly like I told you today. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, action. Now, so so a lot of folks, about 3 weeks ago, I actually took all the songs that I taught on the Song of the Months and then some, and I put together a package, a software suite package. So, and some people said, why so much? Well, now you know why, because I put a lot of time and effort to make it right. So if you love what you hear and you want to use those. So I'm going to be putting it up on the website again pretty soon, so stay tuned in. And so if you want to buy that, and then it obviously comes with the songbook, and then a lot of the instructions. And of course, this one I got to update because I've realized I left out some things. But I'm going to put the music up along with the squiggly, hopeless on the star, and the notes. I'll update notes on the Patreon as well. And starting next month, I have some other new songs. The next 3 months are going to be really fun. So I'll tell you that. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's class. Thank you so much. Keep
Thank you.
playing music. If you have any questions or have any questions about the software suite, just email me. Most of you have it, or you can ask the store to get in touch with me and I can tell you more about that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mwah.